Are you a late bloomer?
Or a rusty pilot?
Then this one's for you.
In the Hangar.
I used to be a well-respected member of the aviation community, and then I started flying to Cirrus, and that changed.
Oh, that was great until the engine quit.
And all of a sudden I see these explosions and these trees exploding.
I'm walking away a better pilot because of this discussion. I'm Christy Wong.
And I'm Dan Millican. Welcome to In the Hangar. Today we're going to talk about rusty pilots and late bloomers. Those are the pilots who may have gotten their license or certificate 40 years ago and haven't flown, or the late bloomers who are a little older and go out and decide to get a pilot's license, like me.
I like to think of us as non-traditional students.
Non-traditional students. So that's what we're talking about today.
Yes.
We've got a distinguished panel of instructor experts who will help talk us through what to do for the rusty pilots and late bloomers. So you guys, we've got Tamara, we've got Alex, and we've got Steve. Let's take late bloomers first. This is the person who is like me, or I don't want to give you that. I can't do it. I can't say to you that you're a late bloomer.
I'm a non-traditional student.
She's not a late bloomer.
I started flying when I was 34 years old. So
I will accept her non-traditional students, as that is what my entire flight training school is about.
That's been your brand. Okay, so what's different about the late bloomer than the 20-year-old that's going for their license?
Well, as the non-traditional or late bloomer, as some people call it, is they usually already have the careers. They've been in a career. Maybe they're looking for a career change or just a new hobby. Or sometimes the new hobby becomes your new career in that case too. I forgot the question, but
the difference between the late bloomer and the 20-year-old.
And the 20-year-old, often they're just beginning. The youngsters are just beginning and they're just getting into a habit, so they're not even set where their career path is going to go. There's a multitude of paths in there.
But then are most of the 20-year-olds that are doing it, are most of them going, it's a career. Mm-hmm. So maybe the late bloomer, you're going to see more hobby.
True, and then the younger kids, they've been in school all their life. They've been learning every single day up to this point, and then they just go straight into flight school, and it's exactly the same way. There's really not much difference, I think, between learning to fly and some college courses. It's a lot on your own, and it's exactly the same way. Whereas if you're a late bloomer, you've got to study a lot more. Get back into that habit of
okay,
learning.
I can buy that. And I'll tell you, in my own experience as a late bloomer, what caught me by surprise was I show up and do the first lesson, everything else, and I quickly fell behind because I didn't realize I was supposed to be doing a lot of stuff on my own. So maybe for us late bloomers, we have to get back into that kind of college mentality.
Sometimes, depending on the instructor, might not have caught that too, making sure, because they may have been dealing with enough. Well, the first time, 20-year-olds, they're used to that, whereas the next ones are not. The non-traditionals, I have to guide them, but I have to work the plan out according to them. And a lot of times in my late bloomers, I also have habits that come from their driving, come from their careers, that will affect how they also learn.
Well, and I think for the non-traditional late bloomers as well, you also have other things that kind of get in the way too, like careers and families and whatnot. So there's a lot of scheduling conflicts that can come up as well. I think that's a huge difference.
At what point is it too late for aviation to be a career?
I've had them as old as 72 starting.
Yeah, but as a career, that person
a career
can't be in the
is not a
airlines.
career. Well, we had one. She got her commercial at 70, and she was actually offered a job.
Really?
At Part 91, but she was offered a job, and she already had her own
Pilot
airplane.
shortage is real.
But it was, but as far as what is their career line, is it more of a private corporate stuff? The age limit may be a lot higher,
Yeah, I mean, because I never went into this thinking, ooh, I want to be a commercial pilot, or I want to, fly for American or anything like that, because, I'm now I've crossed the 50-yard line, and, and I'm about to hit 500 hours after 3 years, so that means 6 more years before 1,500 hours. It's like, you can't have a 7-year career with an airline.
Well,
Very
that's
difficult.
part of it too, because it depends on what your goal is. For like Tamara said, if you're going to go for an airline, yeah, you have to be done by the time you're 65, or today's standards.
But there are
So-
other options.
There are
Yeah.
plenty of other options for other careers in aviation. Many of them, that's how, they found themselves, a lot of the late bloomers, non-traditionals found themselves doing that because they never imagined themselves becoming a commercial pilot, but it sort of happened. It really, when it comes down to, delayed for the career, that's the problem. When it's too late to train, that comes down to a personal.
Yeah, I could see that. It's the personality. If you're not trainable, then it doesn't matter how old you are.
Exactly.
Well, some people, they have already fallen too far into health issues or even
Oh, okay.
mental loss or, certain physical
Right.
skill loss. I mean, we had one at 64 and we had to tell her it was already too late to finish her flight training. She didn't have the muscle capabilities to fly the plane anymore.
She couldn't quite flare 172. Couldn't
Or
get that
152.
far.
She couldn't do the
152.
152.
Wow. Okay.
And I felt bad for that, but she'd already soloed once, so in a sense, she was already a pilot. She just didn't finish with a certificate.
Okay, so then let's go Rusty Pilots. This is the person who got their license 20 years ago or whatever, and life happened.
That's been what I've been dealing a lot with recently. I don't have a ton of late bloomers, but I've done a lot of BFRs or flight reviews for Rusty Pilots, and a lot of what I see there is the old habits they have, or like they have the flight skills and everything, they just have some old habits that we need to get rid of and get them back into flying the textbook style, and then do some things that they aren't used to. Like they might be practicing by themselves all the time on the emergency procedures and all that stuff, but when's the last time you did a emergency procedure that actually landed at the airport? We'll do it over an airport. We don't do it over a field or anything, but most people will do it over a field, spiral down like 500 feet, and say that's good enough, and go around. But every single one of them I've added now to my my syllabus, I guess, for a BFR, is that we have to go to an airport they've never been to or rarely go to, cut the engine, simulated, and spiral down and actually land the airplane. So that's,
And you go all the way down without.
As long as there's an approved landing spot, yes.
of course, yeah.
With my Rusty Pilots, what I have been seeing quite a few more, what I call Rusty Pilots, are those who haven't flown in 5, 10, 15 years for some reason. Life got in the way, work got in the way, a variety of reasons, and they're intimidated by how much it's changed. It has changed drastically from when they learned. The airspace has gotten so much bigger and busier. The aircraft themselves, in some cases, have started changing, and they go to some of these big schools, see nothing but electronics, and they're like, that's intimidating. Come to my school, we got the same basic stuff you learned to fly
Six-pack.
30 years ago.
So they don't have to do glass. Yeah.
Right. We can step our way up slowly, and so it's part of that mentoring is to bring them back into that fold. So it doesn't have to be as scary. There's a program ALPA puts on with their Rusty Pilots, and it is a very good program just to sit there for a weekend and listening to them talk about it and how keeping it simple again, which is how I teach. Let's break it down to simple, then we can get into details as you get comfortable again. And so it's just a matter of taking that time and then building up whatever skill set and move on.
How long do you think it takes a Rusty Pilot to kind of reacquire those skills?
I've noticed about, I think the average generalization is 1 hour per year you've been gone.
Okay.
Oh, okay. 1 hour per year.
Is
So
the
if I've been
general
out of
for
it
like-
for 10 years, I might need 10 hours with a.
I'd say that's not far wrong. I also look at it as when did they learn to fly? What age did they learn to fly? If someone learned to fly at 20, it's still probably well into their same skills as when they learned to ride the bicycle as a kid and they hadn't rode. Whereas someone who learned to fly at 50 then took 5, 10 years off, sometimes they take a little bit longer than the average because it wasn't innate to them to begin with. And then how many hours they had when they quit too.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of it depends on the experience level beforehand. Because, myself, I took 6 years off aviation and didn't touch an airplane the entire time. And it took me a little bit of time to get reacclimated instead of just going out doing a BFR and jumping in an airplane. I needed some practice, definitely. So
how long did it take you in your case? 6 years? 6 hours?
I don't think I actually remember specifically how many hours. It took me a few flights, though.
A few flights.
One
Okay.
thing that I've noticed too is that it's not necessarily their skill level. A lot of these 7-year-olds come out here and fly better than I can. They're amazing pilots. They're former ag pilots or whatever. 70 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, 70.
That's 7 years.
It's pretty impressive how well they can fly and like right on the numbers. The problem I see is sometimes they'll lose confidence or they'll have kids or something, and then all of a sudden they're terrified because they've seen in the news some airplane crash, that sort of stuff. So a lot of time is spending just regaining their confidence, doing some basic maneuvers and other stuff just to build the confidence back to where they were at the beginning.
I mean, even I was a rusty pilot in a sense. I took time off to have my children, as a typical rusty pilot would be, 5 years off. And but I'd been flying all my life. That experience came back, a few flights, and my dad was making me not only just fly a few flights, but okay, let's go to the full-on commercial maneuvers right off the bat. Nothing like a steep learning curve.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for the information. It's been truly beneficial, and I hope it inspires some of the rusty pilots out there or non-traditional late bloomers to get started. Thank you again for joining us. Please share, subscribe, and comment.